think the Iraq War was a serious mistake. And we have a pattern, and going back to this binary of the interventionist and the isolationist. The interventionists advocate over and over again, there's a bad guy, there's a dictator who's doing bad things to his people, and they say, let's go topple him. And you have dictators in the Middle East who are killing radical Islamic terrorists. We come in and topple them. The radical Islamic terrorists take over and they start killing Americans. And mind you, how the heck does that help us? Saddam Hussein was a horrible human being. He murdered and tortured people, unequivocally bad guy. But it got much worse after we toppled him. You ended up having ISIS rise up. I mean, that was the cause of ISIS, was toppling Saddam Hussein. Same thing in Libya. You had Gaddafi, another horrible guy that under Obama, we toppled him. And you ended up having radical Islamic warlords taking over. And it's the question I asked in Syria. Okay, well, what's the plan? And how is this good or bad for the United States? And so I don't think with Iran, I view Iran as very different from Iraq.
But up to that point, you say we disagree. I don't hear really anything. I'm not quite sure what happened in Syria, but I don't know. So, right. But other than that, I don't hear.
Well, for just a quick moment. Yeah. All right. So talked about quite a lot. Let's take a moment to talk about what our thoughts are for isolationist and interventionist, policies in general.
Yeah. So I do not agree with being an isolationist, but I don't think I think Ted Cruz has a point of being in between. We use our naval ships to enable free trade throughout the world, and that's critical for our livelihoods, for trade. Free trade is amazing. We enable it. We stop the Somalis from pirating ships and things like that. So it's critical to have a forward present patrol, if you will. But then again, you get to overextend ourselves like they're talking about. And when you overextend yourselves, that starts wars. I mean, geez, how many years we spent in Iraq and Afghanistan and things like that? It's a huge cost to do that. You and I have both fought in those wars. So you have to know what is the end objective that you're trying to do. Being the world police is expensive and not always necessary.
Yeah, I'd say I'm definitely in the interventionist camp. However, I think the reason that we continue to go wrong there is because we're not really going as far as we need to. I know you and I have had some personal talks about this before. You take something like, I'll take any of these countries, Iraq, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan. My whole thing is, if your whole country has become so corrupt, so twisted, so messed up, so dangerous, so evil, whatever the phrase is that's appropriate at the time, we have to come in, we have to put our own troops on the ground, we have to spend our own money, our time, our investment, the stress on the people who have to watch that in the news every day. We don't go far enough. This is where we go wrong. We say, we take out the bad guy, and then we say, we now leave it up to you people, to now elect your next leader. And they can have any rules and any laws that they want. And so it seems like every single time they elect a radical Islamist who does things like stops women from being able to go to school, forces, full outfits to their entire body so they can never be seen again. But the struggle for me, take Afghanistan, okay? So the Taliban Trump decided that that he was going to trust the Taliban, right? This is the man who makes deals for a living. He's going to trust people who kill people for a living. Yeah. So he makes a deal that says, we'll let the Taliban co-rule the country as long as the Taliban doesn't attack us on the way out. That's pretty much the entire Doha agreements. No teeth. They attacked us. Well, of course it's happening, but there was no teeth to any of it. There was nothing that said, for example, you're not going to, rape and murder your way across the country. Yet you did that as well. There was nothing that we had in writing that says, when you start these things, you will die. You will die, and then your second will die, and your third will die, and your fourth will die. And at this stage, after we killed the first, 2-3 dozen of you, at this point, that now we're coming back. And now we're coming back in. We're going to be here for the next 20, 30, 40 years. We don't have anything in it. So we say, we topple bad guys, and then, but we say, we have no right to tell anyone else how to live. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. We say it's more evil to tell someone how it is than to have the Taliban remove all women's rights again,
basically turn them into sex slaves. That's what they really are. They lost everything because of us. Every single thing between Trump and Biden. And so interventionists, bringing it back to it, right? I'm 100% an interventionist. Except the reality is, after we take your country over, every radical Islamist who gets elected will be killed. Every foolish person who makes the mistake of terror, murder, all the evil stuff that comes when these bad guys take back over, you let them know crystal clear, you're dead. Go ahead, and you're dead. That's me. So yeah, and so I say we can never have a healthy world as long as we're willing to take out a bad guy, but say it's wrong to stop the next bad guy from coming in.
Yeah.
And that next bad guy almost every single time seems to be a radical Islamist. And to agree with what Ted Cruz was saying, that's a much worse than what was left there previously.
I guess the biggest problem with, Afghan in Iraq, I mean, we sent over, tons of lawyers and attorneys. We built their constitution that they were going to have and to create their democracy. We spent years doing that. Well, where are they now? But, Afghanistan, to change a culture like that, you can't do it in 5 years.
No, or 20.
That's 100 years.
That's what I say, 100 years. That's what I say. It's worse,
Putting soldiers, and you have to bring the soldiers' families over too. I think that's the only way you can conquer and change the culture of a country. It's 100 years.
I'd say 100 years, and you have to be willing to go above and beyond. You're not allowed to teach your own people anymore. You need to have professors brought in throughout the world.
Right.
You almost can't be allowed to dress yourself anymore.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about some of these things.
That's why I think instead of invading Iraq or Afghanistan, I think that's why we should just use our special forces and call where we need to call.
And just have them just go kill all the bad guys. I mean, you know where I stand at killing the bad guys.
Yeah, no,
I stand in killing the bad guys.
I'm fine with killing the bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, got no problem with that. But yeah, I think that's where, instead of, billions of dollars, we use our special forces. They're highly trained, highly equipped, and they can do it. I think that's a better option than 100-year occupation.
Or a, 20, 30-year occupation that ends in shame and half the country enslaved by the other.
Exactly.